Welcome back to the R-Rated Podcast. The R-Rated Podcast. This week's guest is...
Welcome back to the R-Rated Podcast. I haven't done a solo episode in so long, so I figured why not do it now? It's a great time. I actually just got back from Japan. Anyone who follows my social media knows that I was in Japan for 2 weeks. So it just felt so good to come back and jump right into it. And I figured there's no better way than to do a solo episode. So for anyone that has been following since the beginning and people who started for season 3, I've been very open about the projects that I've been working on and things that I've been doing in the industry. And everyone knows it's been such an up and down roller coaster, but that is what the film industry is all about, unfortunately. So, one day you're working and then the next day you're jobless. And we're kind of in the situation right now. So you might think, what happened? What's going on? Well, for people who are in the industry, you probably already know there's a giant writers' strike going on. And, SAG and all the big, like the Directors Guild, all the people in other departments are supporting the writers, which 100% I support the writers too, because I also write my own projects. So for me, I can't even imagine writing my own stuff and then not getting credit for it. Or let alone not getting credit for the work that you've done in general. Like, even if it's just not writing. Like, when you don't get credit for something and you work on a project and you've worked so hard, it hurts. I think that's what it really just comes down to. It hurts because they make it seem, and they is the big studios, the big, streaming platforms, unions, whatever. They make it seem like, you're so valuable to us. We couldn't do this without you, which you couldn't, because it takes a whole freaking village to make a film. And anyone who has made a film or a show or a documentary kind of knows that. Like, it's not a one-person team. And I think it's time to talk about the truth that's been going on, because this is the R-Rated Podcast. And I vowed when I started this podcast that I was going to keep it super real and 100 about things that are actually going on in the industry and things that are happening to me and my peers. And I just don't think this is a time to be silent. So here we go. I expected to not work for a little while because I had worked so many hours on a previous show. And I decided, I'll take a little time off, maybe like 2 months. Those 2 months kind of progressed into 8 months. Yikes. So where do I even begin? I basically knew that the COVID stuff was going to be over. So, wasn't tripping about that. I was super excited to move into full creative stuff. And I did. I was able to take the time to really focus on my podcast, bring you guys all these new guests, diversity, which has been so awesome. If you can see behind me, the picture wall is growing because, I keep putting myself out there, networking and trying to bring new people on the podcast. And the introvert in me is, terrified, but in the long run, it paid off. It was so fun to have all these guests so far. And I'm going to bring you guys new guests going forward. Just today, it's me. But I really was able to focus on my podcast and really connect on a deeper level with my guests and have real conversations. And I think the last few episodes, I've been so happy about them just because they're real. It's authentic stuff. Like, it's shit that you actually wouldn't get insight on if I didn't do this. So I feel very happy and very proud to have all these different guests on and for them to feel so comfortable to talk to me and you guys and share everything. So now it's my turn to share what's going on in my life. So, working on the podcast has been great, but my film stuff, I was like, okay, like now I have the time to work on my own stuff. What can I do? For people that don't know, I am making a documentary. I wrote, directed, and produced this documentary. I was lucky enough to have some investors and a lot of people with passion on the subject to join me. A small circle. We were a crew of like 6 people, but like I said, you can't make a film by yourself or a documentary. So I wouldn't have been able to do it with these 6 people and without the belief of others and encouraging me to do this. Last season, I mentioned, I'm making a documentary about the drug epidemic, and then I explained why and why I had this tie and connection to it, which I didn't want to give away more information because I do want the documentary to be a little mystery, but anyone who really knows me knows like how much this means to me and how big of a connection this is in my life. Since my cousin's passing, I have tried to do everything to bring justice, understand the drug epidemic, addiction, rehabs. And so my documentary will be talking about new ways of recovery, because this like whole standard old recovery methods just don't work, at least not for everybody. So my goal with this documentary is to shine light and bring awareness that there's other ways of recovery, and it might not be that standard old like method that your parents or your grandparents were raised on, or what you learn in school or whatever. Like, this is a new way, and this can help people. So I'm super excited for you guys to watch the documentary and see that there's other ways, and that there is hope, and that you can recover, because there is this stereotype with addiction that once you're an addict, you can't go back. You can't go back to sober life. That's not true. That's not true. I can sit here and tell you that I've worked with people that prove to me like that's not true, that you can recover even if you're taking very, very hard drugs and you might not see a clear path in front of you. So that is my documentary, and I am so excited to tell you guys that it is almost done being edited. I thought it was going to be done a little bit sooner, I'm not going to lie, but you can't rush this kind of stuff. For it to be authentic and real, I just didn't want it to throw stuff out there, and I want it to be done perfect and right. I mean, I sit here and say perfect, but like I feel like I can nitpick this documentary forever, just because, I think every like director or artist kind of struggles with this. Like you're like, oh, maybe I should do this or add this or take this out, or like, what if this person thinks that, these doubts start to come in your mind. But I think it's really important to remember why you're doing this and what the cause is. And if you think that it's worth seeing, it's worth seeing. Don't doubt yourself. So yeah, I basically have been spending the last few months, my unemployed months, podcasting and working on the documentary. You might think like, why is that bad? Don't you want to work on more creative stuff anyway? Yes, that is true. I literally complained about it in like past episodes, how I wanted to jump to more creative stuff and do things to advance my creative career, because the past few years I've been working on my own stuff, but I've also been working on other people's projects and films and stuff where it did take away some time from my stuff. So I definitely got the time that I wanted, but now I was like, okay, like ready to jump back into work, got to get back into it. So I've been like looking and applying for stuff, but it has been dry and it has been slow. So I was like, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's me transitioning from COVID to creative. People might not think like, oh, you were managing the COVID department. What makes you think you can just like come and direct now, which I get. But I'm someone that can wear a lot of titles. I have always done that. I've used to do wardrobe. I used to do production design. I write, I direct, I can produce. And I'm a podcaster, so I don't like to be squished into this little box. So yes, I do think I can do other things. And when I was applying to things, I'm like, oh my God, like, I don't know if it's just me, but work seems so slow right now. And, as I'm bringing new podcast guests on, I'm hearing there's going to be a possible strike happening, which I knew this was happening. But did we all prepare for the outcome? Not necessarily. I still thought like the strike will happen and there will be work. Unfortunately, there is no work right now, because without writers, you can't do anything, which is 100% true. You don't have a script, you don't have a story, you don't have episodes. You're going to have to start watching reruns. You're going to have to start watching old movies again. So anyone who's been like on the streaming platforms and is wondering like, why are there no new movies? Like, why are there no new releases? It's because there's no writers writing right now. But you have to understand where the writers are coming from. Imagine writing something and you spent all your time on it and you don't get credit for it. In fact, other people get credit for it, but you don't. It kind of makes you feel like shit. It makes you feel like, am I not worthy? You just want to be recognized. You just want to be recognized for your talent and that like you were a part of this and you did it. So I 100% support the writers. I understand why this is happening. But it has been about a month now since the writer's strike has happened. And I don't think there's going to be an end time anytime soon because the studios and the big companies and the streaming platforms, they're just not budging. And the big executive producers and the showrunners and all that could help, make a change. So unfortunately, things are going to be getting worse and harder and slower, and more people are going to lose their jobs. And I didn't lose my job as a creative, but I didn't even get into it and get started. Like, I was feeling the flow of things, but now with the strike, there's no work because they can't make any new stuff. And more people are getting affected by it. And I've been talking to peers and, fellow past classmates, people, that are independent, people that are working in the studios, and there's nothing. Makeup doesn't have any gigs right now. Hair doesn't have any gigs. Props don't have any gigs. Writers and directors, cinematographers, because there can't be anything produced without writers when you don't have a script. So you can't make new content. I'm really, really stressing this because I want outsiders that aren't in the industry to know that this isn't happening for a silly reason. This is happening because people want residuals, people want credit, people want to feel seen and heard when they're putting in a lot of work. Remember, these set hour days, they're long days. If you go back to some of my episodes, you know that I've worked like 14 to 16 hours on set before. My average was always like a 12 hours. Like that was me getting off early. So imagine putting all this time and work in to not get the credit. That's crazy. So now we're in this like weird pause moment because there's no work. But there is ways you can stay busy and stay connected. For everyone who's in the industry and is like, oh my God, like what do I do? Like I'm in the same boat. I'm freaking out. Don't worry, I'm freaking out with you. But I figured out some things that you can do in the meantime while the strike is happening to keep busy, to keep your work out there and still get gigs. So this is mostly affecting like studios and big major networks, but indie is still out there. So if you're someone that wants to work some indie gigs, just to make some side money and also, meet new people, you can also step away from the studio stuff and work with wonderful, amazing filmmakers who do stuff independently. The budget might be slower. The budget might be lower, things might be, not as grand and big and smooth or whatever, but that doesn't mean you can't produce great creative work. I mean, in fact, all of my projects have been indie, and the documentary is an indie project because it's a crew of 6 people. So, some people might be like, oh, I wouldn't want to work on that. Like, that seems like, you're wearing multiple hats. Yes, you might be wearing multiple hats, but is it better than it? I think it's better than not having any work at all or not working on anything and just sitting there dry. So my advice to people who are in the industry and are affected by this strike right now and don't know what to do, I want to say focus on your personal projects. This might seem like an obvious one, but I know it's so hard to get creative sometimes if you hit writer's block, if if gigs are slow, or if there's anything that you've ever wanted to write or try or produce or direct, do it. This is your time. This is the time you can focus on your own projects. Maybe it's that script that you've always been wanting to write, but you just never had the time to because you're working on set. This is the time to do it. Maybe you wanted to test out producing because you've always done directing, but if you learn the producing, the business side of things, that you could double team it and do more. This is the time to learn and do it. Maybe you want to do more acting stuff, but things are slow. Act for independent stuff, smaller gigs. Just try and like keep the network, keep it going, keep the flow going, because I think the worst thing you could do in this situation is not work on your own stuff. If you can't work for other people, work on your own stuff. Because at the end of the day, when people want to sign you or want to work with you or be your agent or ask for your portfolio, your reel, whatever, they're going to be like, what did you do? What did you direct? What did you produce? And you can show them, be like, I actually did this, independently by myself on a low budget, no big studio needed. That would be one of the tips of the day for people who are affected by the strike is keep working on your stuff. I meet people all the time that are like, oh, I've been thinking about like starting a podcast or like teaching students, or do it. If I didn't start this podcast and then this would have never even been a thing, right? So again, it was one of those moments. We had a pandemic and I was like, what do I do? Nobody's making movies. So it's kind of like a situation like that where the industry is on hold. So this is the time to work on your stuff. Tip number 2 that I can give is stay creative and collaborate. So if you are someone that's more of an introvert that is like, I'm scared, I don't want to reach out to people and ask them to like work with me or, read my stuff when I'm writing stuff, break those barriers. You need to just put yourself out there. I know it's scary, but you can literally do it behind a screen. For example, if you are trying to be a writer or you're a writer director and you want to have something to produce, a new project, join a writer's group, make one online, tell your friends, hey, how about we meet up, or not even meet up. We don't have to meet up. If you don't want to meet up with people, you can do it online. How about we Zoom and we talk about the things that we want to accomplish by this date and what we're trying to write, and then we write it and then the person reads it, and maybe it's a small group. It doesn't have to just be one-on-one, whatever you're comfortable with. Some people thrive off big, large groups that they can, get feedback from, and some people are like, that's terrifying. I just want like my best friend that has knowledge, or a family friend or my mom or whatever to read it. That's fine, as long as you're still staying active and collaborating. That will help. Also, if you feel like, I don't know where to find this, like where would I go online. There's so many different social media platforms. At this point, you can use Facebook, you can use Instagram, you can use TikTok, you can use LinkedIn, you can use Upwork, you can use all these websites to try and expand your network. And just be like, hey guys, I'm trying to collab on something. Is anybody working on any projects? And you never know what might come from it. Like if you join the Facebook group, TV and film production of Los Angeles, for example, I'm sure there's some in different areas wherever you're located. You'll still see independent people trying to make projects happen, and they're seeking DPs, they're seeking production design, they're seeking makeup artists, they're seeking directors, they're seeking actors. So you really just have to look for it. In situations like this, when it doesn't come easy, you have to make yourself available, put yourself out there. And I'm not saying like this is going to happen overnight. There's going to be days where you're going to feel super discouraged and sad, me, and you're going to be like, why am I doing this? Do I just get, a regular, 9 to 5? You know what? That's not bad either. I used to be so worried about, oh no, if I get another job, a side job to help fund my film career and stuff, will I be off track? I think as I'm getting older and I'm doing more and more stuff in the industry and more like freaking roller coaster situations are happening, I'm realizing that it isn't bad to get a side gig or have another way of income coming in, because it is expensive when you're a newbie or an artist just in general. You always have to invest this money into yourself, and it gets scary. You're like, how can I invest money into myself when I have to pay rent and bills? And I get it. I'm in that same position. I always go back and forth on that. But I can sit here and tell you, if things are slow and you've been actively trying for a long time, but I'm saying actively trying, not like you went one time online and you're like, oh, I browsed through the Facebook page, or no, like put yourself out there, use hashtags, be like, film production in LA, hashtag film production in LA, do that. See what's out there. Word of mouth another great way to put yourself out there. Reach out to people that you used to work with before, maybe independent, maybe people who are, at higher positions too, like in the studios, and just try to get insight. Like, hey, what's going on? I'm doing this, work's been slow. I was wondering if I could do this for you, or if you can recommend me to this person and do that. It doesn't hurt. The worst thing that can happen is they say no or they don't respond. And honestly, getting rejected behind a screen, I feel like isn't as bad. So really just put yourself out there, but try to collaborate with other people. In fact, that's what I'm trying to do. I've been writing some scripts, some short stories. I'm like, okay, like what can I do? What can I shoot right now and use my resources that I have? I'm renting a house, I have a car, I have a yard. It's not that great, but maybe I could shoot a script around that. Maybe I can write something with my surroundings. And you never know. Maybe someone else is like, hey, like I heard you're writing a script that's mostly in your backyard. Well, I have, the coolest like blow up pool that I can bring and to make the backyard look even better. You never know. It could be the smallest things. Just try and put yourself out there and you'd be surprised what opportunities can come. If you're someone, for example, if you're a podcaster and you're like, I don't know if is anyone listening? If should I keep doing these podcast episodes? Try live streaming. Do something different. If you feel like what you're doing is just not working, try something different. Or even if it is working and you want to broaden your network and just talk to more people and reach more people, try new things. I'm personally terrified of live streaming. I don't know if I'll ever do it, but maybe I will. And if you see me ever live streaming, then oh shit, she overcame something. But definitely try new outlets. Try to do things out of your comfort zone. If you were always known to just be a writer director, learn producing. If you were always just acting, try singing, dancing, try directing your own stuff. If you are a producer, maybe try directing. Try the creative side. Try to really put yourself outside of the box so that you can see how much more you can achieve. And also, that helps you being able to apply yourself for more gigs. Because, for example, we all know that as a director, it's really hard to just walk onto a set and be like, oh, hire me as a director. I'm ready. It doesn't work like that. People are gonna be like, oh, what else can you do? Why would we hire you? You have only done 3 movies when this person has done 15, But if you can say, I've directed, I've written, I've produced, all of the stuff that I've done, I also do this and that and so and so, you're opening yourself up to more opportunities. For example, during this pause, I'm like, okay, if there's no directing gigs that I can do, what can I do? How can I make money? So I actually thought about something fun that I wanted to try. So if anybody's listening and has any connections to this or has insight to help me, because I need your help, guys. I've never done this before, but I was thinking getting into TV hosting. I think that would be so much fun. And now that I've been podcasting for 3 seasons, I feel comfortable in front of a camera and using a microphone. So I think it'd be super fun to try a hosting show. I would love to do, it doesn't even matter. The sky's the limit. I'm like, let's do reality TV hosting. Let's do a game show. Let's do just a host for a cooking show. Whatever it is, I'm open to it. It sounds fun. And look, it's me putting myself out there. If you would have asked me 3 years ago, hey, would you want to do a hosting job? I would have literally ran away from you. No way. Because I tried that whole acting thing and that scared me. I was like, I don't like being in front of the camera. I like being behind the camera. I like, seeing it come to life from when it was in here. So, yeah. So it's just crazy how with time things change. So now I'm considering hosting. So if anyone out there knows hosting jobs or needs a host, or wants to collaborate with me on their podcast and do a, R-rated podcast / your podcast, I would love to do that. I'm putting myself out there and I would love to try it. I think this is a time for new things and stepping out of your comfort zone. So I've actually been looking online between Upwork, LinkedIn, a little bit of Craigslist, just to see what is out there. And it is a little dry, but I have been able to apply to some stuff. Haven't heard back yet, but I'm not going to let that discourage me because I've really only actively started looking for 2 days. I just got back from Japan 3 days ago. So I can't be that mad. So I would say give yourself, an active like 2 weeks of searching and really trying. Then you can start panicking a little bit and maybe get that side job. Maybe it has to be a little bit out of the industry, but still you have some money coming in. But I'm saying spend 2 weeks and really figure your shit out. Look stuff up, put yourself out there, go to networking events because that is still happening. If you look online, you can go even on an Eventbrite and you can see like film networking events, projects. There's also film festivals that are going on. Maybe you can attend the film festival. You can buy a ticket. That is a place to go to meet people because these are independent, productions that are trying to get their film seen. So it's like a win-win for both. You're supporting the independent artists, and who knows, maybe you could be working with them soon and make something great. Take a workshop, take a seminar, do whatever you think will help you gain the information that you need or the references. And honestly, again, it's like you're putting yourself out there. You're going to a workshop or a seminar that maybe you wouldn't have tried to do before, but now you're in the situation. So this could also help you with opportunities, reaching out to production companies, maybe that are a little bit smaller and being like, hey, I saw that you're located in Burbank. Can I here's my resume. I would love to like work with you. I have this to offer. Boom, boom, boom. Or you can also try to take different avenues and you can always cold call. Not saying that it will work, but sometimes when you call with confidence, you're like, hey, you need this. They're like, you know what? Oh shit. Like maybe we do need this. So yes, put yourself out there, go to the workshops, go to the seminars, go online, apply to yourself. We're all in this together right now. We're all in this together. Sorry, my High School Musical reference had to come back out and I probably just gave away my age. But anyway, really put yourself out there and don't stop. I'm doing it too. I'm putting myself out there too. I've been going once a month to a person's house that is in the industry who is very sweet and has been amazing by hosting a art night every first Sunday of the month and giving the opportunity of creatives to network and talk about things that's going on in their life and that they're working on. And another opportunity, it's like a room full of people that are doing different things, but when you get to talking, you're like, oh shit, like you do that? Oh, I've been looking for someone like that. Or they're like, oh, you know a little bit of this? Cool. Or, oh, you speak German and Spanish? I need a translator. I need someone to like help me pronounce these words. You never know what opportunities can come from networking. Go to some events. I can't stress it more because you just don't know who will be there. And if you feel nervous, bring a friend. Don't do it alone. I mean, you probably will have higher chances if you go alone, but if it gets you out of the house into that event, take a damn friend. Another tip that I can give is stay informed, stay with it. Make sure you're actively looking online, trying to see the update for what's going on with the strike and when jobs might resume. If you kind of have like a gauge of like, oh, okay, like work might start, end of summer or fall. Constantly go online, see what's happening. Ask your peers that are working these like big studio jobs, or even if it was you, just be like, hey, what is going on? Like, when will work resume? And if they tell you, summer or fall, now okay, I have to keep my shit together and figure stuff out until then, because you can't go like 6 months without working or whatever. So these other steps that I said, do that in the meantime. And as a last resort, get a side gig, get multiple side gigs, whatever. It's okay. You can always quit and go back to what you were doing before. I know other employers are probably like, don't say that, but I'm just being honest. For all the creatives that have big dreams and big like goals, it's okay. You're not being sidetracked. This is just another bump in the road. But this is a good bump in the road because we also have to respect why the writers are doing this. And anyone who really knows a writer, writes themselves, you would support this. You would know that there is no film industry without writers. So some people might think like, oh shit, this is happening, but it's happening for a good cause and we have to support them. And we have to let our voices be heard. That's why I wanted to do this podcast episode and talk about it because, I think everyone's very silent. Like, we know this is happening. People who aren't in the industry, like, they're like, okay, like, we saw something, but what does that really mean? So now you know what it means. It means that we're standing up for something that we really believe in and feel like we deserve credit. Like, things weren't always like this. Before, you would get your credit, but now with streaming platforms, a lot of things have changed. And even movie, like screening nights, like that has changed too. Like, people don't always go to the movies anymore for these big premieres and opening nights because they're just going to wait to watch it at home. I can't be mad about this because it's the future, but also we need to put our foot down and know what's right, what's, being respected and what's being taken advantage of. So it doesn't freaking hurt you to put credit on the credit list. It doesn't hurt to share some of that pie that you're getting. You shouldn't eat that whole pie by yourself anyway. It's a lot of calories. So I really, really hope that this kind of gives a little bit of a pep talk, because I know a lot of my peers have been in the same struggle boat that I have been. So I want to just make sure that you guys know that you're being heard. You're not alone. In fact, if you want to work on a project with me, reach out to me. I would be honored, super excited. You're never too good for anybody in the industry. You're never done learning. You're just never done learning. So for me, it just sounds silly to not want to collaborate with, maybe people who haven't had the same opportunities as you, or like lower or whatever. So definitely put yourself out there, stay in touch with your peers, know what's going on in the industry, and really think about what is the right path for you. And I think with that alone, things will happen and come your way. Also, just a little bit of manifestation. I don't know if anyone believes in that, but I really believe that if you set your mind to something, you're like, no, I'm going to do this and this is going to happen, it will. So I think my new manifestation will be, for me, and hopefully you guys can kind of hold me to that. I'm like, oh shit, I'm putting myself on blast. I'm going to finish my podcast season 3 until the end, like I promised. That's not going to stop me. I think I've been pretty good so far. I think I've only had 1 week without an episode. So compared to the last 2 seasons, I would like a little bit of acknowledgement for that. I'm going to finish my documentary this year, and I'm going to have a premiere, and you will see it somewhere. I don't know where yet, but you'll see it somewhere. And lastly, I will find a job. I don't know what job, but I will. I'm going to find a creative... Actually, you know what? I'm going to find a creative job that I have been wanting. But in the meantime, I will also find a side gig, because I can't not work. Like I said before, we all have bills, we all have responsibilities, and sometimes things happen, unexpected things, and you're like, oh shit, like it could be car trouble, it could be a medical bill, it could be food, it could be whatever it is, you're like, okay, I wasn't expecting this to happen, but it did, so I have to figure a way around it. So I really want you guys to know that you're not alone. I'm in the same boat. It might seem like, oh, this person has their shit together, but that's all online stuff. Like, you have to remember that not everything online is always accurate or true. People are only going to post the best stuff that is happening in their life. It's really vulnerable and really shitty to have to, come on, like, honestly, kind of like right now, it's very uncomfortable for me to have to share how much I'm struggling, how much, how it's actually been affecting me. Like, I've been sad about not making films like I thought it was, like more films, I thought it was going to be like a snowball. Like, I kind of felt like the momentum and we were doing something and it was, coming together, and then boom, it's a hold, it's a stop. You're not rolling forward anymore. But it's almost like you're at an intersection and you're like at the stop sign and you're like, okay, like the path isn't letting me go forward, but I could still go left or right, and somehow I'll still get to my destination. So which way are you going to choose? So I'm really holding on to that, stay positive, stay looking, stay informed, because it's really important that we support our peers in every situation. It shouldn't just be the writers. It should be the directors, the teamsters, props, whatever, even crafty, because you couldn't have a set without food. So every department matters. Every person matters on set. And just know that eventually this will be over and we will have jobs again, and hopefully we'll have the things that we're fighting for, you know? If we don't do this kind of stuff now, what will happen in the future? It's only going to get worse. And what kind of future are we setting up for our future generation? Honestly, we need to fight for something, and fight for ourselves too, our opportunity and our rights and our films and our credit and our respect. So for everyone listening, tuning in, I appreciate it. Thank you for joining me on my solo podcast episode. Next week I'll be returning with more guests, and I'm super excited for you guys to tune in and learn more about these certain individuals. They have so much to share. If you guys want to come on my podcast, you can. Just make sure to send a DM to R-Rated Podcast on Instagram, or you can email as well, and let me know what dates you're available and a time, and we can coordinate something. Or if you want to refer someone, kind of like what I suggested, referring a friend, refer them to me, and we'll get connected. And yeah, because it never hurts to meet new people and hear their story and share their insight, because I know that I've been learning so much from people, so I'm hoping you guys are learning just as much. And if there's any certain topics you guys want to hear, the real shit, let me know, because this is what the R-Rated Podcast is all about. Keeping it real, insightful, and no bullshit. I'm not going to sit here and be like, everything's great right now, because things could be better, but we're on the way to getting better and to getting jobs. So just know you're not alone. Everyone in the industry, we're in this together right now. People who aren't in this industry, if you guys have some side gigs for us, hit us up, hit me up, let me know. And also, if anyone knows any hosting gigs, contact me. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a wonderful start to the summer, and let's make more movies.